Henry Damon, a 37-year-old man from Venezuela, had his body modified to look like a Marvel villain, the Red Skull. He had subdermal implants placed all over his forehead, his face tattooed, his nose removed, and his eyes inked black. He loved comic books throughout his life and dreamed of becoming the Red Skull one day. Tongue tattoos. It is an inking process worked on your tongue. Surprisingly, it is not as painful as getting tattoos on other parts of your body. Dennis Abner, the Catman. Dennis spent almost $200,000 on body modification to look like a cat. Not only his face is tattooed with stripes, he gotten cat whiskers pierced all around his upper lip. His ears been pointed from the top and elongated to the bottom. He had silicone injected his upper lips and cheeks. Not only he gotten dentures to look like a cat, he even got a mechanical tail to go with his whole set. Sadly, he died at the age of 54. Bagel head, a type of body modification invented first in Canada. Medical grade saline is injected into the recipient's forehead over a period of 2 hours and then given a depression in the center. The modification only lasts around 6 to 24 hours, and the procedure is very expensive. Elaine Davison. Holding a Guinness World Record, she is the most pierced person in the world. A former nurse from Brazil, she has over 9,000 piercings, weighing around 6 pounds. She never removes any of the piercings nor complains about any pain. Surprisingly, she was married to a man with 0 piercings back in 2011. 3D tattoos. A tattooing method that takes a regular artwork and makes it more realistic. Eric Sprague, aka the Lizard Man. As a professional freak show and sideshow performer, Eric had himself modified to look like a reptile. Most of his body is covered with green scales that took over 700 hours of tattooing. He also has subdermal implants that are placed on top of his eyebrows, his tongue is split, and his ears are overly stretched. Some might think it's too extreme, but his family love him for who he is. Eyeball jewelry. A cosmetic body modification implant where a piece of jewelry is placed within the subject's eye. It was first created in the Netherlands, and the developer said that there are no side effects from it. Now you can also get the implants done in the US, at New York, for a hefty price. Joel Migler. Joel started experimenting with body modification since he was 13, and has spent over $6,000 so far. Joel's most extreme body modification is his cheek tunnels. These tunnel implants are as big as 1.5 inches. His cheeks are exposed, and you can see his teeth through it. He is also able to stick his tongue through his cheeks. Corset body piercing. 2 rows of piercing are symmetrically aligned on one's body. Then, different types of strings are attached to those piercings to look like a corset. This can be done on several locations of your body. The most popular location is on one's back. Rick Genis, the Zombie Boy. Rick had his whole body, including his face, tattooed to look like a Walking Dead. Back in 2010, after a Facebook fan page was created for Rick, the Zombie Boy gained lots of media attention. He went on to be featured on magazines, commercials, and also featured in one of Lady Gaga's music video. Tongue splitting. Splitting or forking the tongue is a common type of body modification. The tongue is cut at the tip of the center and can go as far back as the underside base of the tongue. One of the many methods for forking the tongue is cutting it with a scalpel. The tongue is cut down the middle with a scalpel, and then the wounded area are stitched. It generally heals within 1 to 2 weeks. Maria Jose, the Vampire Lady. She was a former lawyer that turned to body art after suffering years from domestic abuse. Her whole body is covered with tattoos and a few implants. The ones that stand out the most are the titanium horns that are inserted into her head, and her dental work are similar to fangs. Clear lens facial piercing. A young person's photo was taken with a hole in the teen's chin. At first glance, it looks like the teeth and gums are exposed with a metal ring stretching around the chin. But if you take a closer look, it is a clear lens that would normally be for optical wear that is stretching the chin. Paul Unstoppable. From stretching your nose to modifying your genitals, Paul has done it all. His ears were first pierced when he was 7, and he's been stretching them out ever since. He has subdermal implants around his face, his arms, and his hands. He got his face tattooed blue and his eyes inked black. Recently, he legally changed himself to a female, and her new name is Farrah Flawless. She plans to have a gender change surgery soon. Kalakawi, the man who owns his own body modification and tattooing shop. He has 67 piercings with 75% of his body tattooed and ears stretched so far that you can probably fit your hands through it. Kane Mortis, the Devil Man. The 42-year-old DJ spent 11 years modifying his body to look more evil. His eyeballs have been completely tattooed black, he have horn-like subdermal implants on top of his forehead, and part of his nose is cut off. Achilles piercing. A man was brave enough to endure the pain of getting his Achilles pierced. He had a needle skewered between the Achilles tendon and the bones of his ankle. After it was pierced, he kept stretching it out every couple of months. Jesse Thornhill, a man with a very unique Trojan helmet branded on his head. He was arrested for trying to run over his landlord. He went viral over the internet after the news did a report on him and shown his mugshot. Eye tattooing, a practice done mostly for cosmetic reasons. Most procedures include dyeing the ink directly into the eye. It is said that eye tattooing might also help with improving eyesight in some cases. Daryl Belmaris, a man with the biggest stretched earlobes in the world, with a measurement of 5.5 inches that took constant stretching over the years. Giraffe women. Females from a remote tribe in Thailand wear brass rings around their necks since childhood. They started to wear the brass rings at the age of 5 and believing that it will make them look beautiful. Because of how heavy the weight is for the brass rings, it constantly pushes down the collarbone. The necks are not actually lengthened. The illusion is given off by the deformation of their collarbone. Veronica, a transsexual from Poland that have heavily modified her body. She has implants on her face, forearms, her eyes are tattooed, magnetic implants on her fingertips, scarification mark on her body, several piercings, a split tongue, and ears that are stretched. She now lives in London and feels more accepted there than she was back in her hometown. Pointed ears. Removing a small portion of the ear and stitching the two edges together will give you elf-like ears. Now, this procedure has only been offered by a small amount of practitioners.